Nice. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. And today is episode 26 of season 2. And I have to say, I am very excited about this. I only discovered Mr. Joe Robinson probably 2 months ago, and it was via Robin Ford. It was via his social media. And I was just like so blown away. And it wasn't even, that was even before Joe. And I'll get into this. But first of all, thanks for doing it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Mark. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, man. But what was cool about it, what really drew me to you, and this is before I even saw any of your like Chet, Tommy, Emmanuel chops. Like I just saw you, it looked like you maybe were in Robin's house playing his 335.
Yeah.
And your sense of harmony was so astounding to me. Like just, I'm a huge fan of chords and of harmony and like manipulating harmony and reharmonization, and just the way that you approached it was like totally hit home, man. And immediately I was like, all right, now I got to dig in and learn more about this cat. So, so excited. First of all, how did that happen? How did your relationship with Robin come about?
I met Robin in 2016, and we kind of had this band called the Guitar Army. And so we were all with the same management company and the same booking agency. I say we all. It was Robin Ford, Leroy Parnell, and myself. And Leroy, is the legendary Texan and slide player, and has had string of hit songs throughout the 90s, and the three of us were kind of like, it was a really interesting mix of styles. We went out for a couple of tours, throughout the US, and it was just a really cool experience getting to know Robin. He moved to Nashville, and so we've collaborated on different things, and I went over to his place and hung out with he and Tommy Emmanuel one week, and it's just really cool because Robin's been a hero of mine, since I was a teenager. I grew up in Australia, and I heard his albums and was super inspired by his playing and phrasing, and it's been really great to get to know him.
Man, yeah, that has to be so surreal for you, being able to kind of traverse these boundaries of playing with your heroes and then like calling them friends.
It is.
It's so crazy, man. Well, so Joe, I always start these interviews with this specific question because, and I've heard your story of like, starting off on piano and moving to guitar and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But for people that don't know, the question that I always ask my guests is like, do you have like a pinpoint moment when you were like, oh dude, music is it for me? Like, for me, like picking up a guitar, I didn't even think about that. I was a jock. I played lacrosse and baseball and soccer and stuff when I was a kid. And I heard like Nirvana's Nevermind and Pearl Jam's 10 in my friend's room and was like, I want to play guitar. Like immediately, it just like hit me. So like, do you have a moment like that?
Yeah, well, honestly, it was when I first got paid for it. I grew up out in the bush in Australia, and there just wasn't anything to do. We had 2 TV channels, and my parents were like this kind of interesting combination of like farmers, but my dad's a surfer, and they had a lot of musician friends who'd come around and play like Neil Young, Bob Dylan songs. And so I grew up around a kind of this hippie farming, surfing culture, and I was just desperate to get out and see the world and make something of myself. And when I was about 11, I got the opportunity to sit in with a local band at the local pub because someone told this artist, who was a country singer named Texas Rose, they said, oh, there's this young guitarist, he's really good and he can play blues, and you can get him up to play on Johnny B. Good or something like that. And so she got me up on stage and said, oh, you want to come play at the Tamworth Country Music Festival, which was a big festival. It's about a 4-hour drive away from where I grew up. And so I went out there, and she paid me $100 a show for 10 shows. And, I was like 11 years old, and I got to meet Tommy Emmanuel and Phil Emmanuel, who were at the festival too. And it was just like, I need more of this, however I can get it. And so it was like I had a grand in my pocket, and I just met some of my heroes and was so inspired. So that was the moment I was just like, yeah, this music thing is for me.
Yeah. So give me a little bit of history there as far as, because I know in the beginning when you switched from playing piano to guitar, that you've talked about, like, you know, your parents were like, well, you got to practice and you got to work hard and all that. But like, and I know you said you had some lessons, but how long did you actually take lessons? Because how do you get from an interest in playing the guitar to the style that you do now? I'm so curious the path, like the path that you walked, because you talk about blues. We can get into that because that's like I love the blues music,
Mhm.
you know, so we can get into that. But like, I want to know how you got here, because it's so interesting. Like your acoustic style obviously is very hip to me. Like I immediately think of Chet Atkins and stuff when I hear you play, and
Yeah.
and you have your own thing obviously, but like that style is something I've never delved into. So it's like
Really?
it's like mad science for me, you know. I just like, maybe you can change my mind and how to approach it, because I want to talk to you about how to get started working on some of the independence.
That's a big goal of mine, is to show people, you know, who there's a lot of experienced and great guitar players who hear fingerstyle guitar and they're like, wow, that's that they can kind of see what can be done with it. And you know, there's a lot of people who play with open tuning and tapping and that kind of thing, and I don't really get into that side of things. I feel like I come from you know, blues and jazz and rock and roll and soul music and pop music, and I love taking those influences and using the technique that, you know, was pioneered by Chet and Lenny Bro and Mel Travis and Tommy Emmanuel more recent years. And yeah, I really just love the way it allows you to, you know, play guitar like a piano, essentially using all your fingers. And you know, it's very it's a different approach to chords than if you're playing like a single line type approach, which I love as well. But yeah, but basically I started on piano and I just didn't like the piano, and I think it was because I had to sit down at the piano and practice, and it was in the middle of the house, so everyone could hear me practicing, and it was kind of this, you know, it was this expectation from my parents that, you know, okay, you're gonna practice 30 minutes of piano every day. That's you know, that's what's gonna happen every day. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And I did it, and I changed schools because the bus route changed in Australia, and I went to a school where there was a guitar teacher who would come 1 day a week and teach a few students, and his name is Jeff Wallage, and he was a fantastic teacher. He just showed me how to play folk songs. I learned "Horse with No Name," and he showed me how to play a blues, you know, and I learned some songs from the Eric Clapton Unplugged songbook. You know, Tears in Heaven was probably one of the latest songs I learned. But basically, yeah, every week I'd learn a new song, and then, you know, I'd have a lyric sheet and some chords, and I'd go home and practice, and I'd come back and I'd show him something else that I learned from one of my parents. And my parents had a lot of musician friends, so I was always kind of asking people, you know, how do you play this? How do you play that? And so I took lessons for about a year. And you know, when I first quit the piano, I said to my parents, you know, I really want to play the guitar. And they said, oh, okay, well, if you're going to play the guitar, you better practice, because otherwise you'll be straight back to the piano. And I was like, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And so they never had to really pressure me or anything to play guitar. I just love the guitar. I love the fact I could take it, you know, I could walk up, you know, up in the back property. You know, I grew up on 100 acres, and I could go up and play for the cows, and I could
Wow.
walk along the creek bed playing, and I just loved that whole portability aspect. Plus, you know, I was learning folk songs. I wasn't learning, you know, just ode to joy and music that I didn't find interesting as a, you know, 10-year-old. So yeah, but basically I started a rock band with some friends at school, and we played, you know, songs by Pink Floyd and, you know, The Offspring, and, you know, just, you know, regular you know, young teenage rock band. And I started getting into wanting to play extended guitar solos, because we played a few Santana songs. We played, you know, Samba Patti and Flor de Luna and Europa, and I'd feature on those. And so I kind of went into the blues rock and roll thing, and then I heard Tommy Emmanuel, And some local musicians had showed me how to play a little bit of kind of kind of a basic.
Yeah, man. I love that stuff though. Yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of had a little bit of a priming for playing fingerstyle. And of course, when I heard Tommy Emmanuel, it was just like I could see, just the confidence and the power and the energy and the musicality and the great songs. Everything just had such an impact on me. And the other band members, I just couldn't find other people that were as into music as me. So the idea of playing solo really appealed. And Tommy was like the perfect blueprint for that, because this is a guy who has just such an exciting and amazing show.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel really lucky that I was able to meet him and have that experience at the right moment, because it just changed my life. And so learning all Tommy's songs, and there's kind of, back then there were forums for people playing fingerstyle guitar, and people would share tabs for Chet Atkins songs. And I just kind of really went into the fingerstyle guitar world and learned a lot of those tunes and arrangements, and kept playing with different bands. And I moved to Nashville when I was 18, and I've done a lot of sessions in Nashville. And so I've played fingerstyle guitar and played in a lot of different groups. And so yeah, I've kind of I've just enjoyed my musical journey. So
Yeah.
I hope that kind of gives you a bit of a feel for the path.
Yeah, for sure, man. I love the fact too that you won Australia's Got Talent. And I love the fact that you were like, I'm not signing anything, bro. Like, you can take me off the show if you want. I'm not signing any papers. I'm going to Nashville. I loved like that's like a very mature thing to have. Cause like, how old were you at that point? Were you like 16 or 17?
Yeah, I was 16 on Australia's Got Talent, and it was mature. But when I made my first album at 15, I really appreciate the producer who I worked with on that. But I didn't understand the idea of them owning my masters.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I kind of realized what that meant, and I had some opportunities to, do like a showcase for Sony Music in Sydney, and it kind of got a little bit weird because this other label owned masters from another project, and I just was like, I kind of had a little bit of a experience of like, okay, that's the music business is like, it's not everyone's, kumbaya up in the bush playing, jamming together. So when this Australia's Got Talent show came about, I had an attorney. Some friends of mine said you should get a music business attorney and just get them to tell you what the contract is and negotiate it or whatever if you need to. And they told me what it was, and I was like, screw that. I'm not doing like a 5-year 30% management thing with this company in Sydney, and the people they manage are like dancers. Like I'm not doing that. I'm going to Nashville because I already been there, and I met Frank Rogers, and I saw Brad Paisley's semi truck full of guitars.
Yeah.
That's more my speed, and I just was really determined to come to Nashville. And I had a lot of musicians and good people around me that advised me. I always say to people, it's just so much of developing your skills is being around people who you can learn from and grow from, whether it's playing with musicians who are better than you, whether it's having people who are just a little further down the road that you can ask advice from. And I was lucky that when I was younger, I was a teenager, I had a lot of people who would want to help me out and steer me in the right the right direction, because I was very earnest and I was very into music, and they could see that.
Yeah. Well, man, like we said, a very mature thing to do, and like I feel like it worked out perfectly for you in the end, because you won anyway, and then you just got to go do what you wanted to do. And you seem to me, like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to me, not knowing you personally, but you seem to me like a very driven individual. And it's kind of what you have to have as part of being in the music industry too. Like, you have to have, there's a couple things I feel like you have to have. If you have that, you have to be very driven. have to have a good sense of humor too. Because there's a lot of stuff that goes wrong and it doesn't work the way you want it to, that you have to be able to laugh about. But you seem like you have
Yeah.
that stuff, and that's what makes you who you are. But
Yeah.
let me ask you, because so going back to like learning this fingerstyle stuff and kind of diving in deep, and that's where the driven stuff I feel like comes in, because it seems like you probably immersed yourself in that and really dug deep. Because when I heard Tommy Emmanuel in like 2008-ish, I worked a little bit on his arrangement of Day Tripper, because I love the Beatles. And do you play that at all, that version?
How's that tune?
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good arrangement, man.
It's a great piece.
Oh man. But I was gonna ask you, so what's the first one that you worked on that was like took you a long time to get under your hands, and then when it finally came together, everything else started to get easier too?
Well, like the first difficult fingerstyle song I learned, well, but basically the transition was like I learned Freight Train and Windy and Warm, and I learned how to play basically like a finger picking blues, kind of like I showed you.
Thing, yeah.
And that was just really getting to know the thumb pattern. And then I learned Jerry Reed's Mr. Lucky, which sounds like this. And that took hours. And I had a really patient friend of my parents showed me how to play that. He was a boxing champion back in the day. And I used to, my parents would take me around and kind of just have a barbecue at their place, and we'd sit around and he'd show me a few things on the guitar, and then he'd show me a few boxing combinations. Nice. It was really a cool hang with Brett Jones. And yeah, when I learned that song, it was literally like painstaking every little. Okay. Just, every little bar, I'd have to play it, 50 or 100 times right before I could move on. And once I learned that tune, that was kind of my flagship tune for a while. And when I met Phil and Tommy Emmanuel, I played them like Mr. Lucky, and they're like, "That's so cool that you're playing this great music, Joe." Like a lot of kids, playing, they said, Limp Bizkit songs or something. Here you have Jerry Reed, and I was playing Cliffs of Dover, a little bit of Cliffs of Dover, and just really good music. And from there, I really wanted to learn Tommy's Blue Moon for a long time, which goes like this. Etc. Oh. And I listened to the recording of his recording of that, and I just couldn't figure out how he was doing it. So I basically worked out a way to play it that was totally wrong, but it had the same idea of the walking bass. And eventually, I got to sit with Tommy, and he showed me how to play it properly. And then I got some of his videos and VHS tapes, and I discovered the world of hot licks and stop all those videos. And I just was just so into finding my favorite players' videos and learning their licks. And
man, that's so great. My buddy Mario's in here, and he's just saying that acoustic sounds great. That's a Maiden, right?
Thank you. Yeah, this is my signature model Maiden. It's called the JR Signature, and it's an awesome guitar. It's made of Tasmanian myrtle back and sides. And Maiden guitars are just really awesome instruments, especially when you plug them in. I mean, for a guitar that you just plug into any PA and it sounds huge, there's really nothing that compares. And it's the kind of guitar that you just want to keep playing. Like the neck feels great. This guitar has a specific fret wire that's kind of wider than a Martin fret and taller than a Gibson fret, so it's a kind of a pretty cool size. And yeah, I'm really happy with the signature guitar. I think it's really great.
What kind of a preamp does it have in for like plugging in to the PA?
It's its own proprietary system, and it's
Okay.
souped up with a couple of double A's here.
Yeah.
And,
Nice.
and if you use certain DIs, it'll give them too much signal. So it's a really high output, very sensitive pickup. And yeah, I mean, when you listen to Tommy play live, it's this system, and when I play, and we both play with a very soft touch. You know, it's a very nuanced touch. When you hear Tommy, especially, it sounds like he's just bashing the guitar, but there's so much finesse involved in it, and I play with a light touch as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
the guitar really is great for, you know, for strumming as well, but fingerstyle becomes really important to have a guitar pickup that's, you know, sensitive and playing.
Yeah. It seems like those things project like a cannon, man. Anytime I've seen anybody play those, they just seem like they speak volumes.
Yeah, yeah, they do. They're really balanced. The mid range is really nice. I mean, there are certainly louder guitars out there, but they yeah, they just, I don't know. It's just a really comfortable instrument, and it has a thing, and
Yeah.
people can get my signature model, you know, out in the US at the moment. There's quite a few floating around. So anyone that's interested, check out the Maton Guitars website. Go to the dealers page, and then see the, you know, list, and contact the one closest to you if you want to try one out.
I was gonna say, do they like are they over in the US yet? Because I don't think I've ever seen one in a store, but because they're hard to find.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's like, you know, 12 or 15 dealers throughout the states. Artisan Guitars in Nashville, they have, you know, a few of this model, and they have a bunch of different models. And yeah, if you're passing through Nashville, that's a good place to go and check a few out.
Nice. Terry's saying that he wants to pick up his acoustic now because you've been
Yeah.
making that thing sing. um, so okay, so you learn those tunes, you kind of start developing muscle memory because I feel like that style of playing for me seems like it's very like once you get into that muscle memory, like once I started learning how to play like Mississippi Delta blues stuff with bouncing those bass lines with my thumb, after a minute, it starts to turn into that, I feel like.
Hmm.
But when you're doing stuff that you do, like there's some crazy moving bass lines and counterpoint going on in the stuff that I've heard you do. What about like any arrangements that you've done that you've been super proud of that you were like worked really hard on to make it come together?
Oh, sure. Well, I'll just say that I've kind of, one of the great things about, you know, being a modern social media musician is sharing a lot of videos and seeing what connects with people, and kind of finding, you know, what is unique about yourself. And I've found that, yeah, that idea of playing a bass line and a melody together is something that I really I like to sit down and figure out tunes like that. So I'll give you a couple different examples. Like I have a song called Daddy Longlegs, which is one of my older compositions, and the bass line goes like this. And the melody goes. And then together. So like that line.
Yeah.
The bass is going, and the melody's going.
Yeah. It's all that counterpoint stuff that you put in there that makes it sound so interesting, man. Like the guitar, I feel like lends itself to that. It's a beautiful instrument to do that with. You do
Yeah.
it so well, man. You do it so well.
Thank you. Well, I really love, like I said, working out tunes that incorporate those elements. It does, you know, it's difficult to improvise when you have a bass line going, and it's kind of a more of a compositional approach to playing the guitar. But I do love playing, you know, single line soloing too. But another way to approach the bass line is with like a swing tune. So if I take I have a version of Mystic that I also arranged a long time ago. It goes.
Joe, you ain't right, man. Are you from this planet, dude? There are UFOs now. Oh my god, dude, that's so cool.
Thanks, mate.
Oh, so
yeah, and I was just going to say that's kind of a bit of a different twist on playing more of a blues, or Travis type picking pattern. So that pattern is just 6-4-5-4, and you're muting with the bass strings. I'm using a thumb pick, and so the process for kind of getting comfortable with that might be starting on E minor and just trying to get it to feel good. It's not going to feel good for a while. You got to really get the thumb used to doing that, and then you add just a string grab. And then go to an A minor, and the bass pattern changes to have the, A be the root note, back to E minor, and then you can do a little roll, and there's from there you can go to.
yeah.
So it's kind of that's a really, I feel like that's really the foundation of the way I play, and the way I approach fingerstyle guitar.
Yeah, it's like watching Charlie Hunter, except you're just playing a guitar. It's I don't know how that dude does improvise while playing those bass lines. You know what I mean? Watching him is, when I first saw him, I think I was, man, it must have been 2099 around then when I saw him.
Yeah.
I'm dating myself. I was in college, and I was like, there's no way that guy's doing that same thing at the same time. There's no way. I don't believe it. I have to see him live. And then when I saw him live, I was like, holy crap. He is doing that. But you're doing the same thing, It's
yeah, Charlie's amazing, and it makes me think of two things. One thing is, just the idea of tying your identity up in a thing that you do musically. I can just tell that he kind of figured out, oh, this is my thing. I got this fan fret crazy looking guitar, and I can play all these, super cool grooves with the bass going, and then I can do all this funky stuff up top. And, that's kind of something different. It seems to get people's attention. I'm going all in on that. And then people would come to the shows expecting to hear that. And so he just really went all in on developing that. And it's so cool. It's such a great approach. And it also reminds me of this really cool story. My friend from Australia, Adam Miller, is a great fingerstyle guitarist.
Yeah, he was on here.
Oh, was he?
I know Adam. Yeah, we're friends. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, Adam, told me some great stories about, hanging out with Charlie Hunter, that they became friends. And he's like, yeah, I went to Charlie's house, and all Charlie wanted to do is play drums.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm the same. I'm such a lot of guitar players are frustrated drummers. Not that Charlie's a frustrated drummer, but just fans of rhythm and pocket. And when you're playing fingerstyle guitar, so much of the challenge is getting the music to groove right and feel right. And Tommy Emmanuel played drums in bands and was a session musician in Australia, played drums and bass and guitars on all these jingles and hit records. And the rhythmic element, I think is just such a it's really key to being able to be a good solo player, I think.
Oh, dude, 100%. Do you play the kit too?
Yeah. Well, my mom played drums, so I grew up in a house with a drum set. And I worked with a drum pad and play rudiments, almost every day. It's my favorite way to just practice rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's time is just something I've really been trying to work on lately, because it's just such a, whenever you get in the studio and get behind a microphone, it's like, it's so hard to groove with a click and have it feel just perfect. And when you're on stage, it's so hard to not speed up. I like to speed up, and I like to push things on the edge. And
Yeah.
just having that rhythmic control is really like the number one asset of a solo guitar player, I think.
Yeah. It's really fun to watch people too, like Tomo Fujita, like mess with time with a metronome and how you practice.
Yeah.
Whether you want to work with like playing like a swing, like having it feel like a swing or whatever. Like I never really thought about doing that until I saw some of these cats start to like talk about metronome practicing and
Yeah.
how to make it interesting. Do you do some of that stuff too?
Yeah. Yeah. My favorite way to do it is I have this metronome. I'll just grab it right here.
Yeah.
It's a Seiko metronome. I like this one because it's loud. And here's my tuner metronome, and it's, it sounds like this. Kind of is annoying, actually. And it just sounds kind of.
That's like an old school one. Is that like an old school Korg?
Yeah, it's a Korg.
Yeah, it's old school, man.
And this one is made by Seiko, and it sounds like this.
Oh yeah, you can feel that.
And what I do is I put it on the lowest possible setting, which is 40, and I have that be the 2 and 4, and this is what I've been doing lately. But so it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll play like that. So it's like it's very slow, and it really forces you to pay attention to the groove. And the kind of people from a jazz approach have all kinds of great ways of practicing with the metronome.
Yeah. So did you like grow up playing some bebop stuff too? Like if jazz and blues and stuff were part of your vocabulary, was that part of it as well?
Yeah, I always kind of like was interested in learning that, but I never went to school for it. And it was kind of just like I'd hang out with great players who'd show me something cool, and like I'd write a bebop head like.
Dude, it must feel good to like incite a smile on somebody's face when you hear stuff like that. I mean, it's so good, man. Oh man.
Yeah, music's joy for me, and whenever I get to hang with people I really admire, they'll say the same thing. It's just like that's where they're drawing the notes from, is that place of wanting to just have fun and be happy. It's a celebration.
Mm-hmm. Man, so true. So the thumb pick,
yeah,
is that always part of you?
It's been more and more lately. Like the last bebop thing I played was with a straight pick.
Mm-hmm.
But I also play that with a thumb pick sometimes. And when I listen to Lenny Breau or Scotty Anderson, there are certain people who play single lines so well with a thumb pick, and I'm kind of at a point where I listen to myself play with a straight pick, and I'm like, oh, it kind of doesn't sound as much like me anymore. So I'm kind of just exploring using a thumb pick, more and more and more and more. Because just the way the fingers sound, the flesh of the finger on the string, I don't use nails, so that has a certain tone, and a tone I really like. And I've been just trying to get more comfortable playing single lines with a thumb pick and fingers. But when I'm on stage playing a solo concert, it'll be thumb pick 90% of the time, maybe 95% of the time. If I'm playing a gig with Emmylou Harris in her band, or doing something where I'm just, I shouldn't say just, but where I'm a side musician, I'll probably be using a straight pick, more than anything.
Mm-hmm. If you're on a gig like that, Joe, are you playing electric or are you playing acoustic, like with Emmylou?
Electric.
Okay. Yeah, because How many electrics? I know you probably have a pretty cool collection. I mean, I thought I heard you say some stuff in that Robin Ford social media post about some stuff that you have. Is there anything that you're super pumped on right now, electric wise, that you have?
Yeah, well, I recently acquired 2 vintage guitars. I got a 58 Country Club Gretsch,
Oh,
which
wow.
is a really great guitar. It's got 2 true stereo pickups, so you can send the neck pickup to 1 amp. I'm sorry, the top 3 strings from the neck pickup to 1 amp, and you can send the bottom 3 strings from the bridge pickup to another amp.
What?
It's kind of this crazy technology that Chet helped develop, and it allows you to just create these like when I play a bass line and then melody up top, it just gets this. You can do whatever you want with it. You can put one through one speaker and the other through the other. It's pretty cool. So that's a great guitar, and Country Club it's pretty much like a White Falcon, just without all the bling. So that's a great guitar, and I also got a 54 ES175 from Carter Vintage, because I went into the Carter Vintage to play some demos for them, and this guitar, I just picked it up, and the first thing I played was Misty on it, and they recorded it and they put it on YouTube, and it got a lot of views real quick, and I was like, it's so funny, because like I'll play a Maiden and people will say, oh, it kind of reminds me of Tommy Emmanuel, and then I'll play a Gretsch. People say, oh, it reminds me of Chet Atkins, and then I'll play a 175 on the bar. It reminds me of Joe Pass, and then I'll play that Jazz on the telly. They'll be,
Robin Ford.
Yeah, Robin or Ted Green, and
yeah.
So it's I'm kind of just trying to find the right electric guitar, and the way playing fingerstyle on an electric guitar, the guitar has to have a vibe, And I have this. I'm in Canada at the moment at my fiance's place.
Okay.
And I'm just traveling with a couple guitars, but I have this Music Man James Valentine guitar.
Oh, how is that? I've been wanting to try one of those.
It's totally awesome.
Okay.
It's just great. The pickups are great. The neck is great. I was just really blown away with the whole design. I mean, it's really a cool guitar. So
yeah, that red's cool too, man. Yeah, I like that finish.
Looking.
Yeah, I mean, their roasted necks look so cool.
Yeah,
I mean, you can see the flame.
Yeah, it's so comfortable, and it's a really balanced guitar. So I've been doing these live stream concerts on my YouTube channel and Facebook page every week, and last week I just played this guitar the whole hour stream. It was fun.
That's awesome. And some people might not know this. A lot of people probably do, but Joe can sing his butt off as well. So, you're also a great singer. When I saw that, dude, one of my favorite tunes that's always in my head. Do you have any songs? I like asking people this. I have like 3 songs that always pop into my head when I'm like doing like mundane stuff like the dishes or whatever. So like the main song, believe it or not, that always pops into my head is Piggies from the White Album.
Wow.
I always hear that harpsichord all the time. I don't know what it is about that song. Do you have stuff like that?
Yeah, I have this little riff that goes around in my head all the time. It's just like my default riff. I have that. And, I mean, people say to me, they'll come, the merch table after a gig, and they'll say, oh, Joe, you play such nice music. I'd love to, just have you entertain me while I, do chores around the house. And I have to say, there's music coming from outside, I think.
That's all good.
It's all good. I have to say, when I actually practice, I play the same friggin' song again and again and again and again. And so whatever song is the one I've been working on and arranging, I might have cut off. I cut the guitar mic. Whatever song I've been working on is the one that just goes round and round in my head. Like I have a version of No Scrubs, the TLC song.
Man,
that I worked up for fingerstyle.
Can you play a little bit?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it. I don't care about the music in the background. You can barely hear it. It's barely audible.
Yeah.
I love No Scrubs. Love that song. I'm a child of the 90s, man.
Yeah, it kind of goes like this. But this song's been in my head, just going round and round. goes on.
Oh man, that's so good, Joe.
Uh,
Oh,
but
dude.
it's a great tune because the groove is pretty repetitive. It just goes.
Yeah.
So the challenge is to do that with all the vocal melodies.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And then you put the backbeat in. So that's kind of the little, the fun challenge of arranging a song for fingerstyle guitar. And not every song works. You need a song with a good groove and a good melody. And I had fun with that one. But that's been in my head. Oh gosh, I feel like I shouldn't have played it now. But like when I did, I did Jingle Bell Rock around Christmas time, and it got a lot of views. It got like 1 million hits on Facebook, and it was really. A lot of people said, I came and became your fan after I saw your Jingle Bell Rock video. But Jingle Bell Rock was in my head for a month.
Don't play it. Don't play it.
Yeah,
don't do it to yourself.
No, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna.
I'd rather have No Scrubs in my head than Jingle Bell Rock. It's like any tune. Like, I feel like Bill Withers is a great example of like an artist where you could take a song of his and turn it into something really close because of like the repetitive nature of the bass lines with the amazing vocal melody. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay.
Gives me that.
Yeah, lean on me.
That'd be
dude.
Cool.
Oh man, there's so many, dude. Like Lovely Day is a song that sticks out every time. You know what I mean? But like some of the like, repetitive stuff that I really like is, do you know that song, Who Is He?
No.
It's like, the groove is like, dun, 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 and it just does that the whole song.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's like super greasy, like some of his tunes are just like extremely repetitive, but you do not get bored because of how greasy the groove is.
Right.
Oh my God, dude. It's like Bill Withers is one of my faves, man. I wanted to talk to you about, so somebody commented earlier, let me see. Oh yeah. My buddy Terry, while you're playing, is like, makes it seem so easy. And that's the thing about people like you, where it's like, there's this fluidity with playing. And there's like I don't know, there's like a Teflon nature to the way that you play that's just like, it's so smooth, and like ideas connect, even though you got all that stuff going on, bass lines, harmony, melody. I feel like everything is so fluid.
Mm-hmm.
And that obviously is natural ability and talent, like that you have that groove in you, like how we were talking about playing drums. Is there anything else because your hands seem like your hands are pretty big comparatively to me? I feel like your hands seem like they're pretty big. Is that helpful?
I got a lot to say about that. My hands are big. I do have a big stretch, but when I hear someone play like Matteo Mancuso, who's just one of the most unbelievable guitar players I've ever heard, he said on an interview, I don't have particularly big hands, and so now I go, yes, I can say to you, you don't need to have big hands to play it, but people would often comment, yo, you make it look so easy, Joe, and so I made a YouTube video called "Making the Guitar Look Easy," and it's a very specific process, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Then I'll talk about the idea of natural talent, because I have another video. It's called "Talent is BS," okay. and the idea about making it look easy. The whole challenge of playing any instrument is having your hands use the minimum amount of necessary force to play while staying as relaxed as possible. And with a guitar, the fundamental challenge in my mind is getting the left hand to be strong and controlled so that you can play whatever tune or piece or whatever you're working on with just perfect left hand strength, the minimum amount of pressure, but still fretting the notes cleanly. And then with the right hand, you want to be able to play as loud as you can or as soft as you can, and everywhere in between. Mm-hmm. And so that hand independence is like the left hand just plays at that optimum level of like nothing strained, but everything's clean. And then the right hand can just play. can play a whisper soft. And so there's a lot of really deliberate practice just trying to stay relaxed and trying to get that fluidity. And, you know, all my favorite players, Robin Ford, Eric Johnson, Tommy Emmanuel, Jeff Beck, they all had just this fluid motion when they played. And so I always stretch before I play, stretch my forearms and wrists. It's just kind of a habit. I watched John Petrucci's Rock Discipline DVD when I was coming up, and I do those stretches, and I really believe they help me have a more effective practice session and a more effective geared or recording session. And yeah, with the talent idea is, I just get annoyed when people dismiss their own abilities to do something great, and they say, oh, this person is just like they're so talented. And I'm like, no, it's like, it's an interesting combination of things that allows you to, achieve skill on an instrument. I kind of described it as you need focus, flair, and feedback. And so focus is actually doing less. It's like, I don't do a lot of things. Like my dad's like built a house and is like pretty much can do it like a million different things. And I'm kind of like, well, I can play music well. And it's not necessarily a great thing to be super specialized like that. But, I really feel like I have focused on music. And as a teenager, I didn't have, I didn't hang out with a lot of friends all the time. I was always practicing and playing. And that focus, requires some sacrifice, but it's necessary if you want to be good at anything, really. And then flair is you have to enjoy it and feel like it's the right thing for you to be doing.
Yeah.
It's different from natural ability, because it's like, I really fully believe that if I wanted to play soccer at a high level, I could have done it because I enjoyed playing soccer. If I wanted to play drums at a high level, I could have done it because I enjoy it. And yeah, I mean, if I wanted to be a mathematics person or an author or this or that, it's like, if you kind of have a base level of curiosity and you enjoy it, I don't want to get on too much of a rant here, but yeah, I think that's a prerequisite, as well as feedback, which is having good mentors and having good people around you. And from there, people will say, well, being so driven is a talent. And it's like, well, it's a choice as much as anything in my mind. And all the people I know that really have developed an unhealthy obsession with playing have done so because, it comes from a place of pain and frustration and just wanting to do something great to, like, it's often from some kind of psychological defect to be honest. But I really believe it is a choice to not, do this thing and that thing and that thing and that thing and do this thing. And
right.
that's what I'm going to focus on. So anyway.
No. No, totally. And I didn't even mean that it's all natural ability. I feel like there's some people that have a proclivity to it maybe. But like I'm taking a lesson tomorrow night. I haven't done lessons in a while. And I was like, I just had my first gig back after whatever it was, 14 months of not playing music. And I was like, man, doing the same dang stuff I did 14 months ago. I need to not do that. I need to like push myself because I know I'm better than this. You know what I mean? And I think that's what it takes. And I think there's the always a student mentality, as far as I'm concerned, is what I wear on my sleeve. Is like, I'm never done learning about this thing. There's only so many options. There's 6 strings, there's 20 frets on my guitar. Like, there's only so many things I can do, but the things that you can do with it, obviously, what you exemplify are like, it's like something that I would never have dreamed of as a kid. Like hearing you play is stuff that I never in a million years would have thought I can do that. But I know I can. I know if I put in a lot of time and energy and effort into it, and I stop bending notes like a blues player all day long, I could figure out how to kind of do it so I could teach my daughter later. But
yeah, there's so many musicians in the world, and there's so many different things we can do with our instrument. I love so many different styles of playing and so many different so many different types of music, so many different albums, and so many different players, and I'm just constantly inspired by people. And I struggle with the same things everyone does, you know. And what I've always told myself is, you know, you just try to keep improving at a constant level. It doesn't need to be you don't need to go just totally crazy and like, you know, try to learn 30 songs in a weekend or whatever. It's just constantly work on your repertoire, you know, goal set. And yeah, I'm reading this book called Mindset at the moment, which is basically about, like you said, you know, just wanting to try new things and keep growing. And you know, if you say to it like a child, you're so gifted or you're so talented, then they're going to be like, oh, I don't want to like try, because if I fail, then I'm not that they think I am. Whereas
Yeah.
if you reward someone and say, that was really impressive, I can tell how hard you worked to develop that skill, or man, you inspire me to want to, you know, practice more, or you know, whatever it is, like that fosters someone to have more of a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. And the fixed mindset is like, this is the skill set I have, this is who I am, this is my you know, intelligence or whatever. And a growth mindset is basically like, you know, I can do whatever I set my mind to. And there's a lot of things that I don't have the skills to do yet, but you know, if I'm willing to pay the price, I can get them. And you know, you got to use your own intuition as to, you know, I mean, I'd love to be able to play bebop, you know, in a way that, you know, a lot of my favorite, like what I would consider really school jazz players play. Like I open like the Joe Pass book, and like I listen to his like album where he plays a bunch of Django Reinhardt tunes. It's absolutely freaking awesome. And I'm just like, I'll take one bar of Limehouse Blues and try and figure out, and I'm just like, where does he come up with that? And how does that connect to this? That's when I need to have someone like a great jazz musician to explain all that stuff to me. But yeah, it's a really interesting adventure learning an instrument, I think. And I love connecting with like-minded people, and I love that the internet has given us so many different ways to learn and to communicate and to share music and ideas. So
Yeah, dude. And you know, was that what's that Joe Pass? Is it Joe Pass and Herb Ellis, that album 7 Come 11?
Maybe I watched all his videos with like the guitar trio with Herb Ellis. That's Charlie Bird and Barney Kessel. That's the first thing that came to mind. But yeah, I'd love to hear Herb and Joe play together.
I think the album is called 7 Come 11.
I'm gonna add that to my list.
Check it out, because that album totally wrecked me when I first heard it. Like Joe Pass was one of my faves, as well as Grant Green, like for sure. Like Grant Green was a big, that Alive record, that like West Coast Boogaloo Funk Grant Green record. Woo, man, that stuff is good. It's real good. Yeah, you have that bebop stuff though in you. Like I hear it on your records when I listen to your stuff. Like you can hear it's in you, whether it's like I hear some George Benson licks. Are you into George Benson too?
I love George Benson.
Okay,
and,
I can hear it.
Yeah, and I love music that swings. You know, I think it was back to like my mom was in a tap dancing group when I was growing up, and so there was all this great swing music, and I just love the way that music feels. And so whenever I hear, like, one of my favorite albums to listen to just around the house is That's My Kick by Errol Garner. Okay. And it just feels so good. It swings so hard. And I love listening to great piano players, Thelonious Monk and Errol, and you know, guys who really swing and groove and use the instrument just kind of like I try to use the guitar. Like that's, and when I hear Tommy, it's like there's just all that rhythm and all that musicality. And same with Lenny Bro. I mean, Lenny is someone that just is totally on a level that is just inspiring,
man,
beyond measure.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's so many, and it's the nice thing about today is like being able to find, for me to like run into seeing a video of you and then you gain a new fan, and like me to be like, okay, now this dude's pushing me to like want to be better on my instrument and learn how to do different things and push myself. I love that about what's going on today with social media.
Yeah.
Because the mentality of like, anytime I'm sitting next to a guitar player to show them like, oh man, I'm gonna throw my guitar away. Look at that guy. I'm like, what are you talking about? Use that as like, that's amazing. I want to know what's going on there. I want to learn what's happening, you know, and not be like, I'm gonna put my guitar in a case and put it in the closet.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. It's just like, that doesn't make sense to me, man. Like, it's like, if you enjoy it, if you really enjoyed it, that would motivate you. You know what I mean?
I remember, you know, I grew up hanging around Tommy Emmanuel, and Tommy, like, is up at 6 a.m. on the tour bus playing with the bus driver. You know,
Really?
jamming up front. Like, he's always playing, he's always practicing, he just loves it. And, you know, I've been at a restaurant in Nashville with him, and he'll pull out his guitar and just start playing in the restaurant. And other musicians will be like, oh, like, people here don't really do that. And I'm like, well, that's freaking sad. You know, everyone's too precious. And I remember I went to, you know, I forget which college I spoke at, but I said to the students, I was like, you got to find mentors and teachers that are inspiring and that give you energy. And like, there's far too many, you know, music educators, in my opinion, who just, you know, suck all the life out of the room and just is this cynical, you know, I mean, there's a lot of incredible teachers out there, don't get me wrong. And that's kind of my gripe with a lot of, I guess that's probably why I never went into the jazz thing fully, because it can be like a snooty kind of vibe of people that, you know, you hear Miles play, you hear Robin play, you hear, you know, any great jazz musician play, and there's just joy screaming out of the instrument. And then, you know, a lot of people who are teaching jazz just find uninspiring. So I think it's really important to find mentors and find people that you can, you know, be around and learn from, that inspire you. And yeah, we live in the most incredible time because there's so many musicians, there's so many inspiring people, and people are easier to find and connect with than ever. And I love, you know, turning more, you know, like blues and rock and roll guitar players on the fingerstyle, because I think it's a yeah, it's just such a great style.
Well, you did it to this guy, man. You did it to this guy. All right. I feel like I could talk to you forever about this stuff, Joe. You ready to do the lightning round get down?
Oh, let's do it.
All right. So here's how it works. I got 10 questions for you. We are going to pop on a little bit. Speaking of a metronome, we got a nice cruising altitude of 105 BPM.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you these 10 questions. And if you want, Joe, you can explain your answer. If you don't want to, if you just want to burn through them, feel free. I love it when people, you know, give examples of why they, you know, answer the way they did, but you don't have to. No pressure. No pressure. All right. First one's always the same. Lennon or McCartney?
McCartney.
All right.
For the melodies.
Okay. Twix or Snickers?
I don't honestly know the difference.
Oh, the candy bar? Okay. I know that's tough. It's an Americanized. So Twix is a candy bar with caramel, and then Snickers is a peanut caramel with a peanut in it. Yeah. But we can skip that one.
I was banned from having Coca-Cola when I was a kid, and it was like, you know, I just didn't grow up around eating that stuff, and I don't eat it much nowadays.
That's fine. All right. Play it safe or live it dangerously?
Both, but it depends on the risk. Like, if there's a risk of catastrophic failure, play it very safe. If there's not risk of catastrophic failure, live dangerously. For example, you know, be really careful driving on the highway. Don't text. But if you're going to be too shy to post a video online because someone's going to say something negative, who cares?
Right. There you go. I got my first troll a couple weeks ago. And I felt like I made it, Joe. I was like, oh, my first troll on one of my demos. Yes. All right. Preferably, would you rather do a solo gig or a gig with the band?
A solo gig.
Okay.
Although these days I miss playing with bands, but yeah, I like playing solo.
Okay. All right. Coming from the bush, you know too well about this stuff. Snakes or spiders? What would you prefer?
I love snakes. I love pythons. I hate venomous snakes. And you know, I mean, I grew up. People would say my dad was a spider lover because there was just cobwebs all over our roof of the house. It was kind of like a farm shack, which is a tin roof. And the reason was they eat all the bugs and mosquitoes. So it was just cobwebs everywhere, spiders everywhere. So
Oh man,
I'm cool with spiders, but venomous snakes, you know, no thanks.
dude. I get the impression of going to, because I'm like so terrified of snakes. Like snakes are probably one of my biggest fears. I'm so scared to go to Australia because I feel like there's like this impression I get of like turning around every corner, there's a venomous snake. So
It's different. Like growing up in Australia, like we're afraid of coming to America and getting in a fight in a bar because someone will shoot you. When you're in Australia, you just duke it out.
and then you go your separate ways.
Right.
All right. All right. So this is kind of COVID related, but like, would you rather prefer to be going back to a movie theater to see a movie, or do you like the whole like stream new movies at home?
I'm looking forward to the experience of being in a communal area, sharing the experience of a concert or a film. But I've personally loved being home more because I've been a touring musician, you know, ever since I was a teenager. So I've really loved just the routine of being home.
Nice. Nice. All right. In Excess or Midnight Oil?
Midnight Oil.
All right. You have to explain that one.
My mom went to, I haven't ever told her this, but she went to high school with some of the guys from NXS, and certain members of the band were real jerks. There's that. And Midnight Oil, I think they were just a great band. Peter Garrett was a great frontman. He's a great frontman. And yeah, great music.
All right. Pedal board this is electric guitar. Pedal board or straight in to the amp?
Kind of straight in mindset, meaning like I usually have a couple pedals that just turned on all the time, and then I don't touch them. But the idea of like switching pedals on and changing sounds and all that, you know, I mainly because I play a lot of solo concerts, you know, that just gets in the way of my flow. So
okay, that's fair enough.
I'm not a big pedal player, but I do, you know, use pedals always for the most part.
Yeah. Okay. All right. As a dynamic duo, do you prefer Scooby-Doo and Shaggy or Batman and Robin?
Oh, you know, I don't even know how to answer that. I used to like watching Scooby-Doo, so I say Scooby-Doo.
All right. Me too. All right, Joe, this is the last one. Sometimes this is the hardest, sometimes this is the easiest.
Okay.
If you could take one album, doesn't have to be your favorite album of all time, okay? So any album, and erase it from your memory so you've never heard it before, just so you could experience it again for the first time today, what album would that be?
Maybe Tommy Emmanuel Only.
Okay. Okay.
It's a really incredible album.
Was that like a pivotal record for you as far as like growth and everything?
It actually wasn't. I didn't hear that album because that album is on some label that doesn't distribute it. You can only get it on CD or something. I don't know the deal, but I heard Tommy's other albums, but everyone, you know, a lot of his fans would say Only is the album that, you know, is kind of is a masterpiece. And it's a masterpiece because the songs are so brilliant and the songs are so inspired. And I think it was just a moment in time for him. And you know, I remember the first time I went to Europe to play gigs, I would meet all these other musicians my age who could play all those songs, all of Tommy's songs. And I feel like he changed the instrument and really created an incredible generation of people like me who were just so inspired by that music. And I think that album captures just some of his most inspired songs.
Yeah.
And it would be amazing to listen back with totally fresh ears and hear it.
Yeah. He seems like a wonderful human being too. He just seems like a really pleasant man. Well, dude, and how old were you when like Silverchair was popping over there?
Yeah, that was when I was, you know, probably 7, 8, 9 when they were really popping. I used to wake up on Saturday mornings and watch the, you know, the chart countdown of the top 20 songs or whatever. And I actually would make lists. I was really into making lists, and I'd be like, okay, who's going to be number one this week? Is it Natalie Imbruglia Torn, or is it Silverchair? You know, Anthem of the Year 2000.
Yeah.
And or is it, you know, the Vendor Boys, or Mambo Number 5, or whatever 90s music was.
Dude, Diorama is a killer album. That record is really pretty something special. I mean, like Frog Stomp was pretty cool when that came over here for us, but because they were young kids. But when Diorama came out, man, that was like listening to like a newer version of like hard rock, like Jellyfish power pop kind of thing, like big orchestral arrangements. I was like, whoa, dude, these guys just took it to another level, man. That was crazy.
Yeah, we used to play a few of their songs in my rock band. And yeah, it was kind of interesting time, because they were like the band of teenagers that had huge success. And we were a band of teenagers, and they were like, yeah, you want to be the next Silverchair? And you say that to it. It's like when I came to Nashville, everyone was like, you want to be the next Keith Urban? And something just essentially was like, I'm my own fucking person, man.
Yeah.
And,
amen, dude.
So, but yeah, no, that Silverchair did have some great songs and some great records.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, Joe, dude, thank you so much for doing this, man. It was such a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for sharing your gift with us. And
thanks, man.
You know, it's just amazing. And everybody, thanks for hanging out. Joe, you can hang for 1 second. Everybody, take care of yourself, take care of each other. We'll see you next time.